Hello, what's up, everyone? Welcome back. Today we're gonna talk about abetment, and a little bit of criminal conspiracy. These are both two different things, but basically, criminal conspiracy is very closely linked to abetment, which is why I'll be grouping them together. And because criminal conspiracy memang sikit ni je, so, let's just betul lah. So, without further ado, let's go. First, what is abetment? We can see the definition of abetment in section 107 of the Penal Code, where basically it is when you help someone commit a crime, which is why abetment is a joint liability because it involves more than one person, two or more people lah, macam tu. Okay, so who is the abettor, which is who is the abettor and who is the abetted? Okay, in section 108, the abettor is someone who abets, and the abetted is someone who commits a crime because of the abetment of the abetted. Macam tu. We can see that in section 111 of the Penal Code, even if the crime that the abetted commits is different from what the abettor abets, the abettor is still liable for the commission of the crime if we can prove that the crime committed by the abetted was a result of the abetment made by the abettor. Macam tu. Contoh, if I say go do A, but the person who is abetted does B, but he does B because of my suggestion of doing A, that is how I am held liable. Macam tu. Okay, so the punishment of an abetment is in section 109, where it states that if there is a punishment for a particular offense, then the same punishment will carry over to the abetment for the offense. So, for example, if the crime of crime of murder is, for example, life imprisonment, then the abetment for the crime of murder is will be also life imprisonment. Macam tu. Okay, now we're moving on to the forms of abetment. First, we have three forms, which is outlined in section 107 and in paragraphs A, B, and C respectively. So, firstly, is instigation. We can see this in paragraph A. So, for each abetment, there is an element of actus reus and mens rea, which covers the broader elements of such abetment. Okay, firstly, instigation, which is under 107 para A. For the elements, firstly we look at actus reus. Actus reus for instigation is complete as soon as the abettor instigates. So instigation, basically, we can see that in the case of Haji Abdul Ghani against public prosecutor, instigation is not mere temptation, but it is also encouragement. Maksudnya, you cannot merely tempt, you cannot merely tempt someone to do a crime. You have to actively encourage that person to do such crime or such action. Barulah benda tu dikira sebagai instigation under abetment. Macam tu. So the general rule for abetment by instigation is that acquiescence is not abetment. Acquiescence is basically you not doing anything. Inaction does not generally amount to abetment, with an exception of the case of Balakrishnan and other cases. I'm using this case. In the case of Balakrishnan, two army officers were charged after an incident that resulted in one of the trainees punya death. And one of the officers did not do anything while the other officer was subjecting the victim to such incident. So the court held that the second officer's acquiescence amounted to abetment because it allowed for the thing to go on. The second officer basically did not do anything. That is to say, he just biarkan je the first officer subject the victim to such punishment or incident. Okay, we can also see that under instigation ni kan macam basically from what I have explained so far, we can see that instigation is basically, weh, kau try lah buat benda ni, try lah buat benda tu. That is it. You tell someone to do something. Okay, here we see that express words are not necessary. That means that you can imply instigation from someone telling you something. We can see this in the case of R against Mohit Pandey, where in this case the victim jumped into a burning pile. I think it's basically a pile of wood that is burning lah macam tu. And the the accused said ram ram, which in that language I think it was Tamil. Ram ram is something like goodbye and good riddance lah macam tu, which basically encourages the victim more to burn themselves in the burning pyre. That is why the rule is express words is not necessary, because if we say that express words is necessary, then this case would not have existed altogether, because he did not say, "Oh, just let yourself be burned." He said "ram ram," which implies that okay, bye, macam tu. Okay, we can also see that mere presence is not an abetment. Mere presence at the crime scene does not amount to abetment. In the case of public prosecutor against T. Tian Xiong, which in this case, 9 people were charged for the exhibition of a pornographic film. However, the court held that the 9 people were merely audiences of the film itself. Therefore, they did not conspire in, they did not help in the exhibition of the movie itself. They were just there at the scene. So they were acquitted. Hence, mere presence is not amounting to abetment. Okay, next, for actors' risk, also extends to communication via third party. Imagine two situations. Firstly, you tell the other person directly that they should do this, they should do that. That is you directly communicating with them. But what if you are communicating something through mail, through post laju? How does it work? Okay, so it Batman also extends to communication via third party, as illustrated in the case of Isaac Paul Ratnam, where it states that a Batman by letter, sending out a letter, is punishable even if the letter has not been read by anyone. So the mere act of you giving out the letter, posting the letter to the receiver, amounts to a Batman via instigation. Okay, next, mens rea. There must exist an intention by the abettor to abet the other person into committing a crime, as seen in the case of Tala'aum. That is it. Basically, to put in a nutshell, for all three abetments, the mantra is basically the same thing je. Intention, 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 just in different contexts. Macam tu. Next is abetment by conspiracy. Now you're trying to conspire everything. Okay, in the case of conspiracies, which is in section 107, paragraph B, we see that there are three elements of actus reus under abetment by conspiracy. Firstly, the abettor engages with one or more persons. Okay, basically conspiracy ni is agreement. So you can basically say that abetment by conspiracy is abetment by agreement. That is, you agree with other people to do a crime macam tu. Okay, we can see that the first element is illustrated in the case of Topadas, and okay, that's basically it. Okay, how I usually do my notes. Okay, side note lah. Kalau lah I say something and then there is only a case macam ni without any further elaboration, that means that okay, this is the element, first element, and it is mentioned or supported in this case. Macam tu lah lebih kurang. Okay. Secondly, we see that in the case of Leonard Schussler, there must have a meeting of minds. That means that for abetment by conspiracy, there must be a common intention between all of the members of the group, even if there was no physical meeting being held. Contoh, zaman sekarang kan orang banyak guna Google Meet and all that. What if you conspire with other people through Google Meet? Does that amount to conspiracy? That amounts to conspiracy because there was a meeting of minds, even though there was no actual physical meeting being involved throughout the process. That is what it means for the case of Leonard Schussler. Okay. Number two, conspiracy must be for the act abetted uh, as illustrated in the case of Ang Sekwang, which means that whatever that you conspire must be for the thing being carried out macam tu. Awak terfikir nak buat dosa, that is the conspiracy, and awak buat dosa tu, that is the crime. So what you conspire has to be what you commit in terms of crime macam tu. Thirdly, the act or omission takes place after such conspiracy also illustrated in the case of Angsa Kuang. This is basically very simple. Kau dah fikir, so kau buatlah. The act of omission takes place after pemikiran tersebut berlaku. Okay. For the mens rea, there must have an agreement to commit the act when the abettor knows that the act can bring harm. Maksudnya, okay, me with along with a group of 5 people, kita orang agree to do something. That thing will bring harm to someone, and we know that. And despite knowing that the act can bring harm towards someone, we agree nonetheless. That is the element of mens rea that is required under conspiracy. Okay, we can see that in the case of Nomura Taji, it basically states the same thing. And it states another thing, which is general knowledge of the purpose of conspiracy is sufficient. You don't need to know the nitty gritties of the case or the plan that you are going to execute. You just need to know the general aim of what you're going to do. That is sufficient enough in conspiracy. Thirdly, abetment by aiding. Tak tahu Camry nampak dia mana. I think this is fine. Okay, abetment by aiding. This is in paragraph C of section 107. Firstly, the actus reus. There are two actus reus. Firstly, done during or after commission, and it must be done for the thing abetted. Okay, I think I might have missed basically going over what all three of these abetments mean. Um, so I'll do it very briefly lah. Okay. Firstly, abetment by instigation is you telling someone to do something, and that thing is you telling someone to do a crime, and the instigation itself is also a crime. Secondly, conspiracy, you agree with someone or some other persons, which is two or more people, to do a crime, and that crime was being committed. Thirdly, aiding, you help someone during the commission of a crime or after the commission of crime. Notice that I say during or after, because it is one of the elements of aiding itself. See here, must be done done during or after commission. Macam tu lah. So that is basically the outline or the overview of all three abetments. And okay, going back to the actus reus of aiding, which is under paragraph C, it is done or during or after commission, what I just said just now. And the aiding, the help, must be done for the thing abetted. Okay, for this particular abetment, it is a bit looser on in terms of mens rea, because for an abetment by aiding to be successful, the mens rea that needs to be proven is there must have an intention to aid with the knowledge of the commission of the crime. Contohnya, you are a doctor and you are helping to patch someone up. But kau baru tahu, then after dia dah disembuhkan, dia dah keluar, barulah kau tahu yang, oh actually I was helping someone escape from the police, and kebetulan pula dia injured. That does not amount to abetment, because even though you have aided someone in helping them get better, tapi you didn't know that there was a crime that he committed. Macam tu. That is basically the element of mens rea in aiding. You help someone and you know that you are actively helping in the commission of the crime. Macam tu. You can see this element of mens rea in the case of Ramnath, where giving aid without knowledge of a crime is not amounting to abetment. And the case of Ramnath was further reaffirmed in the case of Ramabata Agarwala. Okay, so that is basically the three types of abetment. Next, we'll move on to a little bit of a different topic, but it is very much linked to abetment itself, which is criminal conspiracy. Okay, so what is the difference between criminal conspiracy and conspiracy under abetment? So in criminal conspiracy, which is under Article 120, the mere agreement to do something amounts to criminal conspiracy, because it is agreeing with others to commit an illegal act even if the complete harm is not committed. Contoh bezanya, okay, to better help understand you to better help you understand what criminal conspiracy is, kita bezakan teruslah. Conspiracy under abetment is saya dan kawan saya agree untuk tak solat Jumaat, tapi kami solat Jumaat. That is criminal conspiracy. That is conspiracy under abetment. Criminal conspiracy, kami agree untuk tak solat Jumaat, tapi kami solat. That is criminal conspiracy macam tu. The mere thought and agreement to commit the crime does amount to criminal conspiracy even if the crime was not committed. Macam tu. So there is only one uh, element which is agreeing to commit the crime. That's it. Macam sikit gila kan? Agreeing to commit the crime and it is further upheld in the case of Yashpal. Okay, that is about it. I think I covered everything. Do let me know if there is anything that I did not cover, and yeah, that's about it. See ya.